Moral Orel was a stop-motion animation comedy TV show that ran for 3 seasons on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim in the mid-2000s. It was created by Dino
Stamatopoulos,
a seasoned comedy writer for people such as Conan O'Brien, Dana Carvey, and he even worked on the forgotten and really underrated Adult Swim comedy, Tom Goes to the Mayor. The premise of the show is that Orel, our hero of the story, is a deeply religious boy living in a very religious town. Most episodes involve him going to church, misunderstanding the sermon, and then getting into trouble as he attempts to act like a good Christian. I love this series, and I want to share that love like it's COVID-19. So, like a lazy shit, instead of doing a season or even series overview, I'm going to rewatch the show, making a video about each episode, and I encourage everyone to do the same. You know, don't make a fucking video, you limp dick fucks. That's my thing. But yeah, you can watch it on, I think Hulu, you can watch it on HBO Max, and also Pirate Bay. Yeah, before we continue on the video, I just want to invite everyone to subscribe. Go ahead and like or dislike, and you know what else to do. Fuck! The first episode is called The Lord's Greatest Gift. In church, Reverend Putty recounts the story of Lazarus and his resurrection by Jesus, concluding life is the greatest gift God has given us.
The biggest sin is to throw the gift of life back into God's stupid face.
After church, Orel walks through a cemetery with his best friend Doey, which gets him thinking.
Orel? You know you're not supposed to think when it comes to God and faith.
Well, old Orel gets in his head that dead people, including Doey's grandpa, are bad Christians wasting the gift of life because they're dead. The boys head to the library, stealing a tome entitled Necronomicon, aka the Book of the Dead. After reading the book and digging up Doey's gramps and removing his clothes, Orel recites some spells and brings the old-timer back to life, and immediately kills and eats a passing-by police officer. Orel and Doey have no choice but to revive Officer O'Chunky too, and remove his bloody clothes. Off-screen, this must have happened at least a dozen times or more, because Moralton is now overrun with naked zombies. Orel's father, Clay, encounters the boys undressing another victim, prompting him to utter what will become a recurring catchphrase of his.
I think you should meet me in my study.
After a talk, Orel explains that he was just trying to keep dead people from spitting in God's face by being dead. Clay understands, but it's not so much the fact that Orel had used black magic to create brain-eating zombies, it's that they were naked. So with help from his mom, Orel clothes all the poor naked zombies and saves the day from nudity. This is probably my favorite episode of Moral Orel. The premise is pretty ridiculous, but it sets up the formula that many of the episodes will follow, while establishing the characters that will play larger roles later on. We have the Reverend Putty, whose sermon, while strange in the context of the first episode, makes a lot more sense as the series continues, but I'll cover that in a future video when it's more relevant. Of course, there's also Doey, who is Orel's reluctant sidekick in many of these weird situations. Next is the librarian Miss Sensordoll. Now, this chick is a huge can of worms in herself, but all we really get from her in this episode is that she just loves to burn books. There's also a quick exchange between Clay and Coach Stopframe. Once again, that comes up later on in the series. A couple things I'd like to point is that Orel's parents seem to get along here pretty well, at least a lot better than they do later on. We also get the first of the Lost Commandment, which becomes kind of a recurring joke in the show. And rewatching this episode, and I forgot how witty the damn show is and how funny it was. I always remember it was funny, but it wasn't until actually finally rewatching this first episode, and I plan on watch all the others, not even just for these videos, just because I love the show so much. But you forget just how much comedy somehow they're able to pack in to this 11, 12 minute episode. There's like the music at the beginning. Burn in heaven. His parents, Orel is told, don't get in cars with strangers. And it's not because, it's dangerous.
Because you're in your good Sunday suit.
And it's just like, there's so much, it's just like nonstop jokes. And, it's just really great, clever writing. And it only gets better, especially when you start getting into more of the character development. And I can't wait to keep going. All right, I'm done talking. So yeah, come back next time for when I talk about episode 2 of Moral Orel, God's Chef. So I'd like to thank you for watching this, and I'm going to leave you with a little wisdom from Clay.
Oh, Orel, I could never love you more. People only have a certain amount of love in them, and I'm afraid I have to divide mine up between at least a dozen people.
Oh.
But remember, son, I love you enough.
I'm gonna come.